Good evening. I have 7 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Here.
and Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This evening we have Pastor Gary Green to lead us in prayer. Pastor Green.
Evening. Let us pray. Bow our heads together. Gracious Heavenly Father, the name that's above all names, the power that's above all principality and powers, we thank you for an opportunity to meet together and to watch the people that you put in place here, each council member and our honorable mayor, as they work together for the betterment of all people in our community. We ask God that peace that passes all understanding, that clear-mindedness that comes from your presence, that synergy and energy that comes from your presence, the clear-mindedness, the guidance and direction that only comes from you. We recognize the fact tonight that all blessings come from your mighty hand. You've been so good to this community. We want to give a moment and thank you for that. We just ask that you intervene here tonight. May your divine presence be witnessed by all in attendance to work toward the best for our community of Bel Aire tonight. Father, we thank you that we might find the peace and the hope that comes from knowing your Son Jesus and the power of his resurrected life. In Jesus' name we ask, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is determined agenda additions. Does anybody have any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. So item 6 has has 3 items. In addition to the minutes of the April 4th council meeting, the consent agenda contains an application for cereal malt beverage, beer, sales for a new restaurant. I think it's pronounced Myra or Ramen and Sushi, located at the Bell Point Plaza Shopping Center in the northwest corner of Woodlawn and 37th Street North. The shopping center, or the restaurant, is also applying for the state for a liquor license and has submitted the zoning certificate included in your packet as part of that process. The application has provided all the appropriate documentation. The applicant has all the appropriate documentation and passed all the required background checks for the CMB license. Staff has no concerns from the health and safety perspective regarding either the CMB beer or liquor licenses. Staff recommends council approve the CMB license and accept the certificate for filing. Any discussion about the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. David. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 7, item 7A is the appropriations ordinance. So this reporting period indicates one payroll period. The city paid the second pavement and curbing repair payment of $380,164 to Kansas Paving, in addition to the Skyview second paving payment. Instafoam received a second payment of $37,024 for sewer lining and annual liability insurance to EMC totaling $178,475 for the 2023-2024 premium. Any discussion concerning the appropriations ordinance? Hearing none, I'll consider a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
a motion to approve appropriations ordinance number 23-07.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. David and a second by Mr. Dean. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. City requested appearances. We have Mr. Gary Northwall here, who has been on the tree board for how many years, Gary?
I believe 13.
13 years. So he is still on the tree board, although he has stepped down from the chairmanship. So we do have a presentation from Mr. Green, or Mr. Northwall. Yeah, that's this one. So in appreciation for your 13 years of service and soon to be another 14th year.
We agree.
Yeah,
17.
there you go. We appreciate your dedication to the city and all the work you do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I have a few comments. I didn't,
Okay.
as you can
If you wanna
see,
Keep that, you may.
I didn't plan on making a speech.
Okay. But if you want to make comments, please make them in the microphone here so that they will come through to the public, because this is probably.
I just wanted to put a blurb out about Arbor Day. Mayor mentioned I'm still on the board. I'm still a member. We're celebrating Arbor Day on the 29th of April. The mayor will be there to read the proclamation at 11 o'clock. We have new chairperson, Rebecca Armstrong. I'm sure she'll have some comments. Public Works Department is planning a Schumer Oak on the 26th near the children's playground. The Lions Club donated the money for this tree, as they've done the last at least 2 years, I believe. I'm going to get a little flyer out to post here and at the rec center to remind people of the day. And Tristan's already posted on Facebook, so
Great.
that's all I have. Thanks.
Very good. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you on the 29th, if not before. All right. So the next item is citizens' concerns, and I had no cards, and I'm not seeing any other citizens here except for Mr. Roque. He's always here, but he's always welcome to speak, but he doesn't usually. So anyway, thank you. So we'll move on to council member reports. So Mr. Welch, do you have a report?
Short one. I attended the K254 corridor meeting on Friday. We learned a few things. There's a new solar farm going in Butler County. They're expecting to put 1,000 panels up. The Kansas Turnpike Association is going totally cashless in the summer of 2024. So you need to get something figured out so you can pay your tolls.
He'll send you the bill anyway.
They'll send a bill in the mail, but it may not go to who you want it to. Somebody borrows your car. The 254 Corridor Association is working on a 20-year master plan for the corridor from Wichita to El Dorado. The plan's going to cover, already they've taken some traffic counts. They're going to look at future congestion points, do an environmental study, necessary utilities that'll go through there, planning for access roads and setbacks. There's going to be some citizen informational meetings that are supposed to start this summer. I'm hoping we can get some links to that on the website and our Facebook page so that our citizens can link to that. And I think this was brought up before, but K254 is getting a new overlay from, I guess, the junction all the way to the Butler County line. So that may cause some traffic problems if you're not already aware of that.
That started Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't travel there more than once a year.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you, Mayor. Our three of our kids played indoor soccer season that wrapped up at the rec center this Saturday. Another great season. Wanted to thank the rec staff, all the referees, the volunteer coaches, and I understand the near record 182 players that played this season. So that's good. Saturday evening, I attended the Sunrise Legacy banquet. Interesting things coming. They have some projects this summer. They're going to beef up their security, which will be good at their entry point. And they have some plans to. They have more demand than they can accommodate right now with the families coming through. So they have hopes of doing a $16 million building project in the coming years. And some exciting things would be a new auditorium and a new basketball court. Right now, they can't accommodate their fine arts productions or their basketball games. Most of you probably know they have a fairly high caliber basketball program, and ESPN will come and film sometimes, and they just simply can't accommodate it. So that will be nice, obviously for the families associated with Sunrise, but I think for the community at large to be able to take in some of those things with bigger facilities. And then I have enjoyed the past several weeks serving on the attorney selection committee as we've sifted through resumes and conducted interviews, and looking forward to wrapping that process up, hopefully here in the near future, to fill the vacancy left by Jackie Kelly when she moved to Derby. Only thing I wanted to point out is not this Saturday, but the next one on the 29th from 9 to noon, right here in the City Hall parking lot, is our annual Recycle and Shred Day. Come and shred your items and recycle any electronics you have. IT Source does a great job. I would point out, just make sure that you check out the information. There is a small additional fee if you're going to recycle hard drives or TVs. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. You can do the recycling, then you can go to the Arbor Day celebration at 11. There you go. All right. Mr. Smith,
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Dean.
Small report, Mayor. Thank you. Just a reminder, and I'm sure Ty might hit on it too, the park survey is still open. I believe it closes tomorrow. So if you haven't given your input on parks, make sure to jump online and use that link. Earlier in the month, I attended the Bel Aire Chamber monthly luncheon. This was since our last meeting. The K96 expansion project was the topic, and Jake with WSP Engineers, who's the lead engineer on the project, in this early phase, presented and answered questions. It was neat to hear more about that, and there will be more opportunity to learn more in the future. So keep your eyes out for their future information sessions. Last Tuesday, attended the Federal Issues Forum hosted by the Wichita Chamber, which featured Kansas U.S. Senator Roger Marshall and as a guest speaker. He highlighted several issues at the federal level, including the new farm bill, the fentanyl crisis, and there was a few others. And then last Friday, as John summarized pretty well, was the K254 Corridor Association meeting. Folks that presented were with Garver and PEC, just kind of going over the stuff that he talked about with the corridor management plan. And it will be exciting to start seeing the community engagement process start on that. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. David.
Thank you, Mayor. I did also attend the K254 meeting with members Dean and Welch, and they pretty much covered it. There was one interesting part was just hearing the neighborhood cities talk about what was going on. I thought that was very interesting. And then one comment that wasn't mentioned was there was a WAMPO study evidently that said Sedgwick County has higher fatality rates than Johnson County, and attributed to driver behavior. That was interesting. Take it as you may. And then I also appreciate the Easter Tuesday off. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you. So just to touch on what Ms. Hamburg talked about, the e-recycling in my Mayor's Corner in the Bel Aire Breeze last month, not the one that just came out, but the one that came out in early March. I talked about the e-recycling and the importance to recycle electronics, because there are a lot of hazardous chemicals in those electronics. And if you throw them in the trash, they just go to the landfill. And that's not a good thing. So it's really important, if you do have electronics, to take advantage of that e-recycling. So disappointment, Las Compas has closed. It appears not enough business to make it through the construction issues. This was a concern that they may not survive, but we were sorry to see them close. On On April 11th, I attended the WAMPO TBD meeting and to Mr. Greg Davis' suggestion about, or talk about that study. That study, a couple years ago, KDOT identified that traffic deaths in Sedgwick County are about 3 times the rate of Johnson County. And so we asked why that, if they would go deeper into that and learn why that might be. So there were a couple things identified. There appears to be a 10% decrease in seatbelt usage in Sedgwick County versus Johnson County. So there's some hard evidence that seatbelts are reducing deaths if you're wearing your seatbelt. The other interesting highlight was the difference in traffic deaths on local streets of 225 in Johnson County or in Sedgwick County versus 70 in Johnson County. So urban crashes in Sedgwick County were 248 versus 110 for Johnson County. And more research needs to be go into these, but this gives some solid evidence that the importance of wearing seatbelts and that they do need to figure out a little more why those big differences. Johnson County is about 78,000 more people than Sedgwick County. They're much more urban. We're more rural in mileage or road miles anyway. So, okay. And that is, I do have that available in the WAMPO packet. If somebody really wants all the detail of that, well, it's a link. It's not, I don't have the paper. I have a link available to that study. I don't have the study itself. Okay. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know. I'll get you the link. So last weekend, I attended the Kansas Mayor's Conference in Hays, Kansas. This was a legislative update that was enlightening. One issue was Senate Bill 252 that was to require cities to provide certain tax rebates to businesses that are in competition with city services, such as child care, recreational centers, and those kinds of things. That bill has now been bundled in what's called Senate Bill 8. So Senate Bill 252 needs to be stripped out of Senate Bill 8, as Senate Bill 8 has multifaceted bill that has other issues that are beneficial, but that particular issue needs to be stripped out. So I encourage everyone to get a hold of senators and representatives in Topeka and tell them to get that out of there, because they will have that session coming up next week. I don't know. It's coming up pretty quickly. Their veto session, and this bill will be passed one way or another. So we would like it passed the right way. Okay. So also Senate Bill 248 on local food sales tax did not pass. So that issue is untouched this year. So sales tax on food will be reduced as already planned in current law. They also passed SCR 1611 by the Senate, and it is a constitutional amendment that would put a cap on increased property values to 4% per year. So this needs to be considered by the House next year, and if approved, it would need to go to the voters for approval on a ballot. This was designed to prevent large changes like we have seen this year in Sedgwick County, where most valuations increased by 17%, which is just a shock. Okay. Jackie Stiles presented her story to the mayors. You may remember she is from Claflin, Kansas, and was the leading scorer in NCAA women's basketball, taking Southwest Missouri State to the Final Four. She then went on to the women's NBA for a few years, and then moved on to coaching. So it was interesting hearing her story on her presentation. I actually got her movie on DVD. I haven't seen it yet, but I got a copy of it. So. Grant Spieth, mayor of Columbus, Kansas, was awarded the Mayor of the Year for 2022. I think I spoke 23, but I think it's 22, awarded in 23. So I also attended a presentation by Miami County on their economic development efforts. Miami County is adjacent to Kansas City, Johnson County to the south. So they're much influenced by the economic development activity in Kansas City area, much like Bel Aire is influenced by Wichita and Sedgwick County economic development. So a lot of similarities there with how we're affected. Okay. So please continue to support Dollar General during the construction. Coming tomorrow, that wood line is going to close at the railroad tracks for the installation of sewer line and under the tracks and other associated paving. is planned to be about 3 months, so it'll be closed until like July. So I'll now ask our interim city attorney if she has a report.
I do not have a report at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you. Our city manager, Mr. Lasher.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let, if you haven't been out driving around town, Bel Aire continues to grow. First quarter of this year, which will be January, February, March, we added 50 new meters. So 50 new customers came on. All of 2022, we added 307 new meters. So you would assume that the first quarter would be a little slow because construction really picks up during the summertime. So 50 meters, I think, is pretty good for 3 winter months. So that's all I had, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. So item 11A is the cost sharing for the K254 management plan. A couple of our council members went to the K254 Corridor Association meeting and saw that management plan, or what the contract is to start that management plan, it looks like. So KDOT completed that. They're going to do that corridor management plan from North Junction to El Dorado. KDOT requested a local match fund for the project. And so each city and county along the corridor pledged a certain amount based on miles of roadway. I know Sedgwick County contributed a significant amount. Butler County had a significant contribution to this as well. So at the September 7th, 2021 City Council meeting, the governing body approved Bel Aire contributing $11,100 towards the plan. KDOT accepted the request from the association and has hired Garber Engineering to complete the plan. KDOT is now requesting the funds, and action on the agenda approves the payment. Any discussion about this KDOT management plan?
What's the amount again? You said we agreed on 11,100
Yes.
and we've got 11,200 here in the agenda.
Okay, so there's a typo, which is it?
Yes, it should be 11,100. That's what the letter from KDOT dated February 23rd is requesting. So it's 11,100.
So that was an error in the minutes there. Okay, thank you, or the motion. So thank you for the clarification.
With that cleared up, I'll make a motion to approve Bel Aire's cost share payment of $11,100 to KDOT for the K254 corridor management plan and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch and second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. So we'll move on to item 11B. This is authorization to purchase a vac truck. So the 2023 budget contains $280,000 for a vac and jetter truck to replace an old trailer unit. This is what we use to clean out sewers. Is that correct? To clean the sewer lines, the sanitary sewer lines? Okay. As with most equipment, costs have skyrocketed and supply is limited. The new truck is now in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000. So due to the increased cost, used trucks are now in demand. And when a dealer obtains a good used jetter, they typically are sold in a couple of days. Staff understands the preference to get bids and bring such a purchase to the governing body. However, a truck may come to the market after a council meeting requiring a 2-week waiting period in the worst case. So a special meeting would be called, but that requires a minimum of 24 hours notice suggested. A good truck could be under contract within the day. So it's actually happened earlier in the month. Public Works found a good vac truck and was in the process of looking for comparables and writing the staff report for the first meeting in April. The truck was sold in 2 days. So Public Works has identified specifications needed and know what they are looking for in a used truck. So staff is asking for special authority to negotiate and purchase a used vac and jetter truck when one comes on the market, meets the requirements of specifications, and is good condition. The action on the agenda is to allow the Public Works Director and the City Manager to identify the right piece of equipment, negotiate a purchase price under $280,000, and acquire the truck in the expeditious manner so as to not miss out on a good deal on the used jetter. Any discussion concerning giving this authority to the Public Works Director and City Manager?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
how old of a vehicle would we consider purchasing? I didn't see that in the specs. Is there a minimum newness that we have in mind? And really, the core of my question is going to get to how long do we expect it to last us for $280,000, up to $280,000?
Yeah, that's and this is a unique situation, requesting something like this, but it happened, and that's why we're doing it. And because originally, when this was put on the CIP plan 4 or 5 years ago, we were thinking 300 would buy a new truck, and back then it would. But now, as we all know, the cost of everything has skyrocketed, and that 300,000 that we'd hoped to buy a new truck would take 400,000 to 500,000 today. So our public works director is here. Do you want to come up, Marty, and answer that question? But like I said, we found one. They were getting ready to go through the typical protocol of putting together the staff report, looking for comparables, for bidding process. And as they were doing that, it got sold. And so, and because that's what everybody's looking for are the used units, they're on the lot a day or two. And of course, the salesman automatically, when they know someone's looking for, they're calling and saying, we got one coming in. Are you interested? Before it even hits the lot. So, Marty, what do you?
And that's what's happening right now. I have 3 of them, used ones from a 2015 to a 14 to a 16, I think is what we have right now. But we're looking for special specifications, making sure that that's going to meet what we need from now and in the future. So what we're trying to find something that's going to last, and I'm trying to get a warranty on what we're going to purchase. So usually on a used vehicle, nobody wants to give you a warranty. I've talked to all the distributors and said, we're looking for a warranty on top of that at this price. So that's what we're working on right now. So, and they're all diesel trucks. They're usually 48 to 58,000 miles on the truck, which is not much. It's the hours on the pump that we're looking at, and there's a lot involved in it. So you guys will have the report the next time we look at it so that you can see it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, our goal would be to have it last, 20 years, 10 to 20 years.
It looked like for payback, it needed to last at least 5. And so that's what I wanted to make sure of is whatever we buy will last at least 5 years.
So what everybody's doing that I can see is in 5 to 7 years, they're trading their trucks in and getting new trucks is what's happening.
Okay.
So
these ones that you've seen, are these ones you're considering right now?
I have a few right now that I'm considering. This one right here we're looking at on the board, that's over $600,000 for that truck. So that's not what we're looking for, but the guy came out and showed us basically this is what you guys are looking for, and we're not going to go that high unless you guys want to wait till next year and we put that in next year's budget and we see if we can get a new one at that time. So we're not going to jump into anything.
$600,000 you're talking about, like repairing a mile of road.
Right. I totally understand.
And really the reason for the pictures is just to show you the difference that we're going from a trailer unit to something that's much more, and it does a lot more. The mayor asked, it does clean out sewers, but it can also pothole or whatever.
We can do water line repairs with this. We can pothole just about anything we need to do. Instead of digging, we can use that truck for too. It's going to create less problems in people's yards, just less maintenance altogether. It's going to be safer for everybody. It's there's a lot involved in it that you guys will see once we put the report out, and you'll see that we're not just jumping out there going, hey, we need this because of this thing's about to break down or whatever. We're trying to do better for the city and grow with the city.
It, from the report, it looked like a lot of the way that this pays for itself is through the line cleaning. And I think the example was last year we spent $50,000 with UMC to clean 21,000 feet of line. That sounds like, the type of savings that's going to pay for this over time.
Correct.
The question I have is, in order to do that, that's going to take staff time. Do we have the staff time and capacity to take advantage of the equipment in order to get the payback on this?
We're doing the cleaning already, partial of it, and we've subbed out, the $50,000, like you said, we'll make the time and we'll be able to do most of that. So
Great.
we're going to save money in the long run.
How comfortable are you that the 280,000 will cover whatever we find?
That's what I was told that we could use. That's what we're looking for. So I'm not real comfortable on that right now, but we're going to look. So
Well, how much do you think you would need to find?
what I've looked at is a couple of used ones I've looked at is 299 is what they've been looking for. So 300,000 is what a typical used one's going for. So
Do
Is
we
this
need
the
to
seat?
consider then as a council that we bump that number? I think we have some slop in the budget that we could go up a little bit.
You could. The other thing is that and part of it will be negotiations. So we'll do some negotiating and we'll try to get something out of the unit to trade in as well. So there's if you give us 280 to spend, we could potentially get one that's 300 if we can negotiate and trade in the old one. Somebody was going to give us something for the old one.
they were going to give us 10, and I talked to them a little bit, got it up to 20 in one day. So I know they can go higher than that on negotiations. So I'm looking at 20, 25 for a trade in on it from different distributors.
That sounds more fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So- So you're giving us authority to spend up to 280, and then it may be a $300,000 machine, but we can trade in the old one and do some negotiating too.
Yeah, well, we'd
So-
want to get rid of the old one anyway, right?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and do we have shed space to park a new truck?
I didn't hear you.
Do we have the shed space to park a new truck? We're really tight, I know.
Not at this time. We do not. So we'll accommodate. I mean, we'll move a couple things out and we'll bring that in, things that doesn't need to be in. We can make it happen. We can make it happen and where we're at. Sewer trucks and stuff like that, anything that holds water, anything has to be inside, especially in the winter. So we can get rid of some of the things that we have in the shop now, like our backhoe can go in the barn, instead of being indoors, and they can take the place of that. Plus, once the old sewer's gone, sewer jetter's gone, it should be able to fit right in there.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'm definitely in support of, maintaining our system, and I think this is a good way to go about it. So appreciate you taking the time to work through all the details. Just for the general public's awareness, though, you kind of told us the reasoning why we need the special authorization to go through negotiations, but just so the general public knows, is there a threshold that you guys are allowed to spend? I just want to make sure the public knows why we're going through kind of this dialogue. And
Yeah. So our current policy is that department heads can spend up to 5,000. Then I can authorize up to 10,000. Then anything above 10,000 goes to the city council.
gotcha. Thank you, Ty.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to negotiate the purchase of a used vac truck for public works, meeting certain specifications listed in the staff report for a price not to exceed $280,000.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Welch. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item C. So this is Woodlawn Change Order 13. Nice round number. During the installation of Line 4 storm sewer pipe on the north side of Crestmark, Dollinger discovered a conflict with the city's 18-inch water line pipe and an 8-inch water line pipe. So two water line pipes. After reviewing the situation, MKEC was able to adjust the storm sewer design to avoid the water lines. This solution is less expensive than the cost for lowering both of those water lines and will take less time to implement The cost of this change order is $31,734.15. The additional costs associated with the change order will be included in the bonds and paid for from the general fund. The change order will increase the total annual debt service payment to $2,550. Staff recommends council approve the proposed change order 13 in the amount of $31,734.15 for the Line 4 storm sewer changes. And this is south of the railroad track, is that correct? Crestmark?
That is correct. This crest mark is the street that goes kind of circles around and through the business district on the south, or on the northeast west corner of 37th and Woodlawn. So part of kind of leading in, when we noticed the conflict at 44th and Woodlawn, contractor preemptively went and dug up the other locations where it showed the storm sewer crossing the water lines. So that is how we found this conflict, getting ahead of it. As soon as they had the elevations from the potholing, they immediately contacted MKEC, who then took a look at the elevations and started working on a solution. Could have gone with 18-inch water line lowering, but the less you can lower those lines, the better we are. We also have issues with material availability, being able to get 18-inch bends in on time. So I did ask the contractor to look at both the cost for lowering the 18-inch as well as the storm sewer revisions. And I do not have a cost on the 18-inch water line lowering, but compared to what it was before, this is cheaper. The 18-inch lowering that we just did on 44th, I don't have the figure that we had approved. I believe it was 44,000.
I believe it was.
But after they made sure and tracked all their quantities, as Mr. David noticed, there was some extra quantities, but they sent me a bill just the other day for $38,551.54. So it did come in about 6,000-ish less. So that is good news.
Yeah.
They are trying to be cognizant of city funds and of timing and trying to do their best to keep the project moving forward and keeping costs down as much as possible. So I do appreciate that they are being cognizant of that. And then looking at the two different options moving forward with the storm sewer and the water line lowering, that is very much appreciated.
Yeah, that's good news. I know there was going to be some cost share on that 44th Street project. Did we come to an agreement on that?
We're getting close.
Okay.
I fairly recently got that cost information from Donlinger. I asked them what this would have cost in 2021 versus what the final costs were as we did it today.
Mm-hmm.
And I have those costs. I have shared those with MKEC. Jay's working on within his company
Right.
to kind of
Okay.
come to a solution. So
Okay.
I don't have information for you tonight, but I will say it is in the works, and Jay has committed to cost sharing with the city on that.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other questions on this change order?
Are we done with change orders after this one? Feels like it's $10,000 here, $30,000 there, $20,000 here, and it's starting to add up to be quite a bit.
Correct. I'm hoping, I do know that there is one small one out there. There was another water line that was in question, but we were able to raise the inlet up enough, and it was basically an inlet on stilts, so debris could come in through the inlet and down. But those stilts are being cut off, so it will be a traditional inlet or very small stilts. So they were able to raise it up enough to get over the water line, have enough clearance that they weren't concerned about it. That is being tracked on a time and materials basis because there's not really a good idea ahead of time of how much cost it will take, but it should not be very significant. I'm going to guess it's going to be between 5 and 10,000. So it will be recorded through this, but you may not see it when it comes through eventually because it would be within Ty's spending authority.
And there is a possibility, if I remember right, when we went back through the bid tabs, that we might have some more cement, but they wanted to wait till they got clear near the end of the project to see if the cement in the bid tab was adequate. Is that
Oh, and
correct?
there is one more change order. I'm sorry. It's whenever you're working in a developed corridor, these things happen. It's kind of like if you're buying an old house, 20s vintage, and wanting to fix it up. I don't care how good of a job you do on your pre-purchase inspection. Once you start opening those walls, you're going to find something. They may have done the wiring up to a certain point, but left the knob and tube where you can't see it. That's kind of what we're getting into. It's just an old corridor, a lot of utilities, a lot of things down there. And we did not pothole things to begin with. So that is a lesson learned that we're taking forward onto 45th Street. The other change order that will be forthcoming that I have not gotten a price from Donlinger and Pearson yet is on Woodlawn by St. James. There's that big ditch that's going to be piped and it's going to cover up because that slope is too steep. If somebody was walking, bicycling and fell off this or came off the sidewalk, that would not be a good situation. So that is one that will be forthcoming. Other than that, that should be, hopefully. I'm not aware of anything else. I'm not going to promise that there's not going to be more other than these two that I've mentioned. But it's an older corridor. It's been there for a long time. There's utilities that you just don't know, especially if you don't pothole ahead of time.
So I've noticed that St. James and 45th Street issue. What's the plan to fix that? You're going to run a pipe through that area?
So right now we've got.
It's all open right
like
now.
it's right now there's like 50 feet of open ditch.
Right.
So we'll pipe it from the pipe that comes underneath St. James to the existing pipe that goes further west. So that will be filled in. And then we're planning on bringing a curb around just to help with the drainage coming off St. James.
Okay.
So it'll be a much cleaner, much nicer look at the end.
Since we're talking about all parts of the project, there's a couple of big potholes in the concrete at the northeast corner of 37th and Woodlawn. And I don't know that they're in the project proper, but they're right there at the corner. I don't know if something got dropped on it or what.
Right in that northeast quadrant of that intersection.
Right.
Well, I'll take a note of that, pass that along to Garver, have them look into it, and we'll see what we can do.
It looks like it's damaged cement. It doesn't look
Okay.
like it's asphalt.
It is definitely cement. And if it's not us, then we need to get Wichita out there to fix it because they're on the intersection, right?
That is correct. Yeah, we deeded the intersection over to them a couple of years ago.
Come fix your concrete.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the quote from Don Linger in the amount not to exceed $31,734.15 for the stormwater adjustment to line 4 north of Crestmark and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
Second.
a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Hamburg. I think somebody else tried to as well. But
Yeah, I was
Too
trying.
slow?
It's okay. I did
They can
want
only
to,
take-
I did want to add a comment
Certainly.
and appreciate you describing, the corridor and how that makes it more difficult. But you might also expand upon why it is so important that we invest money kind of as we build out the city with documenting and keeping track, and why it's important for a growing city to kind of be a little ahead of that so that in the future we don't have the same issue. I know that's something that you're probably near and dear to your heart, is keeping good documentation. So I
Sure.
wanted to at least point that out.
Yeah,
So.
no, thank you for bringing that up. And that was part of the struggle that MKEC had during the design, is they had to rely on the information that we had at hand. And the water line, I mean, those probably installed 50 plus years ago. The plans on that were nowhere near as detailed as they are today. I mean, you try and install them at 3 to 4 feet below ground level, and did they actually get installed? I don't know, because we don't have as-built plans. That's something that we've been trying to work on. We have partnered with PEC to help us with a GIS, Geographical Information System database. And that's something that our staff can use whenever they go out and dig up a water line for repairs. They can get a depth on that and put that information right into the GIS database. PEC is working with us to get a lot of our old plans in that GIS database. But kind of like that old house scenario, your plans on the old house are only as good as the architectural drawings, which, 80 years ago weren't very detailed. They didn't have the technology. Everything was drafted by hand, and it took, years, months to make those drawings. So changes didn't really get updated. The technology, the standards weren't quite what it was now versus
Not a
back then.
3D CAD file on delivery.
So exactly. So
Well,
yeah.
then
So
somebody made a
that's
change at the last minute and it never got documented.
Well, thank you, Ann. I just wanted the public to understand that we're investing now to make it more affordable, to catch some of those things later. That's the
Yes.
importance of staying on top of pre-planning and
exactly.
working with PEC on that GIS.
And I will say, even all the pre-planning we can do, that will not catch everything. I had a project when I was in consulting over on 135th Street with an oil pipeline. We potholed it 4 times, once at the right of way, once right at the edge of the street on each side of the road. And we still got really darn close to it because the oil pipeline went like this over the road. So, as much as you do as much due diligence as you can, and you learn as you go with your experience doing these projects, and you try and make things better, you try and get all those unknowns as known as possible, but we can't see below the ground. And so we do the best we can. There's still going to be unknowns coming up, but you do try and mitigate those through different avenues.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and if there's any other discussion, if not, I'll take a call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item is a couple executive sessions, and the first one I'd like to ask for 60 minutes. A little bit to talk about.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of attorney-client consultation regarding contractual obligations pursuant to the KSA 754319 exception for attorney-client privilege. Invite the city manager, interim city attorney, Brian Meyer, and Ken Lee. The meeting will be for a period of 60 minutes, and the open meeting will resume at 8:47 p.m. in city council chambers.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Smith, and a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We're in executive session for 1 hour. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held a special, not a special, an executive session, and no binding action was taken. So the meeting is back in order. We're ready to consider another motion. I think we want to do a recess. Is that right? For how long?
I'll make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Be back in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order, held a 5-minute recess and ready for item B. We'd like a 30-minute executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319, exception for the same. Invite the city manager. The meeting will be for a period of 30 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in council chambers at 9:25.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We are in executive session for 30 minutes. Okay, we held an executive session. No binding action was taken. I'm going to call the meeting back to order and move on to item 13A, which is council meeting scheduled for July 4th, conflict because July 4th falls on a Tuesday this year. And did anybody give any more thought to that since last meeting? No? Okay.
I'm going to be gone the week of the 17th, and for sure. And we have our budget workshop the 11th. There was at one point talk about just shifting the whole calendar. I would prefer to be in person for that budget workshop. So that's my only request. So,
You want the workshop to be on the 11th?
oh yeah,
You
that
don't
would be
want
that would be my
you don't want to
preference.
move.
I'd
Okay.
rather remote in for the other.
Okay.
Do we need to wait till, how early do we have to decide this? Because if we wait till middle of June, we might know how big an agenda we're going to have, and
If we even need to have the meeting. at
yeah,
that
if we
point.
can skip the meeting or not.
Okay. All right.
That's what I think we should do, is we should wait till the end of June and determine if we need to have a council meeting for that week. And if we do, figure out a time that we can get a quorum to take care of the necessary items.
Let's do that. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion and future issues? There are none. We'll move on to adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith and a second by whom? Dean?
I was quick on the draw.
Okay. Well, it was quiet enough I couldn't tell
Yeah.
but that's fine. No worries. Okay, no discussion allowed here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Motion carries.